Shadow the Hedgehog is a confusing game with terrible level design, awful story, horrible mission structure, and trash character control. Don't ever play it, is the common discourse about this game. However, today I am not discussing Shadow's 2005 spin-off title based on its standard playthrough. It's certainly not uncommon when replaying games in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise to skip the parts that aren't as fun. Things like playing only the speed stages in Sonic Adventure 2, the day stages in Unleashed, and dare I say avoiding Encore mode in Sonic Mania despite the gem that game is, are just a few examples of how I enjoy these games when replaying them. But what if I told you that, like those games, there is a fun way to play Shadow the Hedgehog within the vanilla game that is quality enough to rival its predecessors?
I'm okay.
Expert mode is just that. This unlockable playthrough sends Shadow on a linear path through all 23 stages, removes the morality system, and best of all, streamlines every stage to only require getting to the goal ring or completing a small amount of objectives along the main path. There's only one problem. To unlock this mode, one must get an A rank on every hero, neutral, and dark mission in every stage of the game. Thankfully, we are lucky enough to live in the modern era where emulation is possible. These days, you can easily download a 100% save file of the game, bypassing this requirement and just getting to the good stuff. Huge thanks to Asian Man 2001 for uploading this save file. Along with playing the game on an emulator, I'm using a widescreen modification by Dream Syntax and an HD texture pack by Saturn Advanced. Links to both of those in the description. Gameplay-wise, it's the exact same Shadow the Hedgehog as it is straight off of the GameCube. With all that out of the way, let's take a dive into what this game mode has to offer. Expert mode sees Shadow going through every stage from the base game in a linear order, starting in Westopolis and moving from the top to the bottom of each column on the map before going to the next one. Future Stummo here. So I completely forgot to mention that Expert mode doesn't have any bosses or story cutscenes because I've played so much Expert mode that I legitimately forgot that those were in the game. So another big win in my book for sure, because those things aren't that great. These stages aren't their original variants either, sort of. Each one has either had a goal ring added to the farthest point of the map, like the back part of Westopolis that's normally only used for the hero or dark missions, or their objectives have been streamlined, like Central City's big bombs now being on a linear path, or the admittedly hilarious gag of needing to heal all the researchers in the Doom, but they're all in one room. This makes the levels much more fun to run through now that you don't have to worry about the painstaking search for that one alien you missed of the exactly 40 you need to complete the mission, or twisting and turning every which way to blow up a ridiculous amount of bombs. Seriously, what is this mission? Expert mode does occasionally live up to its name by remixing the level design or enemy encounters. However, the majority of the changes are so small that the levels might as well be their regular versions, but better. Well, Stelmo, that's great that it streamlines the levels, but Shadow is still so slippery to control. What's the point of having good levels if I have butter underneath my shoes constantly, angry face? Well, Terry Longbottom, I am here to tell you that 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog does not have slippery character control. Slippery, or loose control, would imply that Shadow can't make precise movements or carry too much speed after the player stops their inputs. And, well, Shadow is actually very controllable when moving slow, even having a strafe mode when the R button is held down to lock him to a low speed. Things get a bit looser when at high speeds, which in this game his top speed is crazy fast, but it's still very manageable to move the Hedgehog around. And now that he doesn't have to stop every 5 seconds to defeat an objective, that top speed can be utilized in super fun ways. Lethal Highway is my favorite showcase of this. Without a tank to worry about now, Shadow can just zoom ahead while using the Gunplay to defeat anything in his way. Now, normally I would scoff at this sort of design, as it seems very hold forward to win. But throughout Expert mode, there is very little automation, meaning that the speed Shadow achieves here is the player's doing, not the game's. And the design in this part of Lethal Highway is the exception rather than the rule. Even then, these wide open sections to just run through do still have obstacles to avoid, and with good play, it's exhilarating to move so fast while weaving in and out of stuff. You know, since I mentioned the Gunplay earlier, let's touch on that a tad. It's good. Absolutely ridiculous concept, but the execution really isn't that bad at all. Shoutouts to my favorite, the donut gun. It's got such a fun sound effect. It's hard to not have a smile on your face when Shadow blitzes through Gun Fortress with a comically large Gatling gun with infinite ammo as all victims are helpless against his rampage. Maybe Black Doom has started getting to me a bit. Also, since we have a 100% save file, let's run through all the special weapons Edgy the Hedgie can pick up from the Shadow box. Back to Shadow's general movement. While it isn't slippery, it can be a bit frustrating to get used to for newcomers. The best advice I have is to let go of the control stick when you want to slow down. As shown earlier, Shadow decelerates very quickly this way, which really helps during platforming sections. The strafe I mentioned previously can help a lot as well. Oh, the spin dash! Let's talk about the spin dash. Surprisingly, it functions a lot like the classic games. Shadow can perform it at a standstill, another reason neutral sticking is great, by the way, and can hold the button to rev it up. If given enough time to charge, this thing is wicked fast and carries a bunch of speed when going off of ledges, allowing for some pretty dope skips. Spin dash jumps are here in full effect, too. In this game, though, there is this weird recoil thing Shadow does when spin dash jumping into certain objects and terrain. It reminds me a lot of the super bounce glitch from Sonic Adventure 2, just performed in a different way. The chaos powers are as useful as ever here too. Well, at least the infinite ammo and invincibility Shadow gets when filling up the meter. However, chaos control does actually get some good use now since you aren't skipping over objectives all the time while it's active. Fun fact is that in Lava Shelter, if Shadow uses chaos control in the wrong spot, he will go to the ending of the neutral pathway instead of the dark pathway that the stage wants to send him toward. Since there's no goal ring there, this soft locks the game, so maybe hold off on using it in this stage. While I really enjoy Shadow the Hedgehog in this way, I can't say that expert mode is 100% great. There are a few snags here. Circus Park, for one, has a very difficult barrel section about halfway into the stage where you have to stay on these really tight platforms and jump through these rings of fire. I actually had a thing while I was recording where Shadow got hit by one of them. He tried to recover, and as he jumped, the barrel moved and he just fell to his death, which was kind of funny. But thankfully, there are enough enemies to get chaos control to bypass this. The Doom, even with the funny goal ring, and Lost Impact still suffer from having very samey architecture, making it easy to get lost. But Mad Matrix, Mad Matrix is one of the most annoying stages in the game. The goal here is to activate all 4 colored towers. Though they're basically linear, traveling between the towers is still agonizingly long. And the green tower, that is just straight up infuriating. The game asks the player to hit a switch with a bullet on a moving platform with little room for error, because if you miss, Shadow falls off the platform and starts back at the beginning of the green tower. Thankfully, like Circus Park, there is a way to circumvent all this.
What happened to my past? Behold the ultimate power!
While I have completed expert mode countless times without cheats, and have playthroughs of it on my second channel, don't watch the older one though, it's kinda bad, I always use a chaos control cheat to skip these 4 stages on replay. To go on a bit of a tangent, I always advise to play any video game in the most fun way possible for you, especially if it's a single player game. Multiplayer games are different since having a set of rules that every player agrees to follow is what makes them fair and fun. But single player, if you don't like a stage or a level, but enjoy what comes after, then skip it, or use mods to enhance the experience at least. This philosophy is what creates the talent behind the endless sea of mods and fan games we have for the Sonic series. At the end of the day, it's about having as much fun as possible, and I get that when playing Shadow's expert mode this way. Back on topic. Even with 4 bad stages, there are still 19-ish, the arc is just an auto-scroller but it's pretty short, stages that are fun to run through. But one stage sits above them all that many consider for the title of worst stage in the adventure era, and that's expert mode Cosmic Fall. I wouldn't say the same. It's absolutely one of the tougher stages in the playthrough, but it's more than manageable. The hardest part is near the end, where Shadow has to fall on several quickly moving platforms that are really far apart. The only feasible way to do this is with the spin dash, but that makes the timing and direction very precise because things get pretty unruly when trying to correct it in the air. I did this section on replay for this video, and it took me 4 tries. It was real fun to test my knowledge of how the spin dash worked, and how to learn to correct myself in the air when things were getting pretty crazy. However, the 100% save I showed near the beginning of the video also has all of the keys collected in every stage, which isn't part of the normal requirements to unlock expert mode. These are basically like the red rings in Sonic games nowadays. With them all, they unlock a special door within each level, including expert mode. The one in Cosmic Fall has a switch that spawns a ton of light dash paths, which avoid almost all of the platforming for the remainder of the stage when taken, including the portion I mentioned earlier. Even without it, I can't say I recall ever having rage-inducing trouble with this stage, so I still stand by it as a fun one. For fans of the stories of Sonic, expert mode has some of that too. At the beginning of each stage, every character from the base game mentions how this is a training simulation for Shadow. There are even conversations with the president, and the gun commander invites Shadow over for dinner. Even Black Doom is here. Glad to see he survived his little fall. Well, hilarious. It's rare in the Sonic series to have such concrete connective tissue between games, as this training simulation will lead to Shadow eventually joining Gun before the events of 06. But unfortunate that it's between these two game stories of all things. Also, there's this dialogue at the beginning of Lava Shelter, which makes me chuckle every time.
So, Shadow, how you home now? You're doing great. Only 4 stages.
This is Eggman's secret base. I will defeat him and prove that I am the strongest.
Omega, cut it out. Do you have anything better to do?
Oh.
I strongly recommend trying out Shadow's expert mode if you have the means to do so. Even without the widescreen hack and such, it's just a blast to run through. It was also cool to discover this, as it basically became a new Sonic game to add to my replay list whenever I go back to the adventure era. Additionally, if you want more challenge out of these levels, there is an awesome mod titled Shadow Reloaded, also by Dream Syntax, along with Limbless Vector, that beefs up the difficulty of the expert mode levels, giving veteran players a run for their money. It also makes changes to the base campaign as well if you'd like to give that a try. Huge thanks once again to Asian Man 2001 for uploading the 100% save file all those years ago, and to the Stelmo crew for making this content happen. Thanks so much for watching, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Never mind, this stage fucking sucks.